fortune teller game. So every video that I made and it's a cat game. Thanks for WIBYTE to help me to make this video. So go subscribe him. So we make a fortune teller game. So first we need a spirit. This this old man who that's gonna die, and I don't know when he's gonna die. So we need spirit and wish house. Yeah. Also there's black cat. It's a wish cat. Another thing we will do is make a spirit. The spirit. Yeah, probably.
I basically just create, say, two rectangles. I make them black in color, right? So, you can use, let's say, just right. Now, remember the magician here was answering questions which were somewhat like cheek and tongue, right? A little bit funny, little bit witty, little bit humorous, right? So, how did we create that? Basically, that is using a list, right? Now, recall lists are like big brothers of variables, right? So variables were like containers, individual containers which stored information for us. Lists are like their big brothers. Instead of just storing one piece of information, lists store many small containers together, right? So that's the whole idea of a list. How do we create a list? Let's see now, right? For the wizard answer. So I'll go here, I'll click on this block called make a list, right? Now when I say make a list, just like make a variable, I get to define a new list, and here I'm going to call it, you know, wizard answers. Let's say wizard answers.
So we will make one block for this. This and
So I get this list, I make it available to everybody. It doesn't really matter in this code. Now, the moment I do this, just like in case of variables, I now get a kind of place where this list is kept, right? So for now, I'll, untick this box so I don't need to see it. Of course, later on, we will be seeing it, right? Now, remember when we have a variable, we have to set the variable value before the game starts, right? So here is an equivalent thing that has to be done is to fill up this list called wizard answers, right? And how do we do that? Let's see now, right? So I'll put a little bit of code for the wizard girl, right? Because she's the real sort of hero of this lesson. So I say when flag clicked, right? I just use a broadcast to say in a broadcast here I say prepare answers, right? So
we will make a bot scheme. Prepare and
what I really mean is that fill up this list which contains the answers, right? Now,
we will skip. Yeah.
since I'm sending a broadcast, I must have, when I receive, say, prepare answers.
When I receive prepare answer.
So when I receive prepare answers, what do I do? Recall, what we want to do really is to fill up values. You may be, or I can say, then I might want.
กินอะไร กินข้าวอะไร เขาแม่ใหม่พวกแม่กำลังพูดว่าอะไรเนี่ย ใช่เพราะแต่ที่ไม่แค่เขาแค่อยากจะรู้ว่าแม่หมายถึงแม่หมายความว่าไงที่แม่บอกว่าแม่เขากินข้าวยังเนี่ยแม่คิดว่าเขายังไม่ได้กินหรอแม่ตอนนี้เขาเริ่มกังฟังก่อนเขากังวลมากเดี๋ยวฟังก่อนพูดไปด้วยสิก็ดูเล่นนิดเดียวตอนนี้เขากังวลเกี่ยวกับอินเทอร์เน็ตมากมันมีเสียงมีคลิปตัวหนึ่งในอินเทอร์เน็ตที่จะมาได้ทุกเดือนเดือนธันวาคมทุกๆวันของเดือนธันวาคมทุกวันเลยของเดือนธันวาคมพาดูรูปแม่อาจจะคิดว่ามันก็แค่ตัวละครตัวเล็กๆน่ารักแต่มันน่ากลัวมากแม่ It's so scary because it can be kill red mean and change it to be Paduru and then everything in YouTube Facebook or everything in internet app yeah it's all Paduru it's just a joke money it's really is real money joke really it's jokeแม่แข็งแรงแล้วทำไมแม่ไปดูเหมือนแม่หมดแรงไม่ได้หมดไม่ได้นอนเลยทุกครั้งไปบ้านยายคือนอนแต่ไม่ได้กินกาแฟแก้วนึงกับตาตาสว่างวันนี้เป็นวันที่รู้สึกดีที่เมื่อวานเป็น COVID. Yeah, so I am not a dog.เร็วใช่อ่ะเอาเดี๋ยวนี้แม่จะให้อย่าเพิ่งรบกวนได้ไหมแม่ไปแล้วแม่ให้ทายแม่ว่าเกิดอะไรขึ้นเราใช้เวลาตั้ง13 นาทีได้อะในการคุยอะเนี่ยเขาต้องมานั่งตัดต่ออีกอ๋อ and ให้เขาช่วยได้ไหมว่าแต่แม่จะอยู่ตรงนี้จนถึงเมื่อไหร่เปลี่ยนห้องนอนแล้วฉันจะนอนตรงนี้ไม่ได้นอนตรงนี้ไม่ได้นอนแล้วตายแน่เขาเนี่ยสิตายเพราะว่าแม่นอนตรงนี้ก็ล้มไง
to know, right? So I'm just creating, say, 8 or 9 answers. So I've got three. Let's say maybe I can create three more. Let's say these three, and I can just say, let's say, I will say, this question is meaningless, right? Let's say, I mean, anything really, right? Then I might say, decide. Well, let's say, you may be right, right? So I say you may be right, and let's say one more, the last one we can give is, please look towards the ceiling for an answer. Okay, so let's say enough. I mean, we have created enough. of these, right? I've basically given commands to add all these answers into the list. Right now, let's see what happens when we run.
Let's look what gonna happen when we run. Nothing.
This code, and for this purpose I'm going to say let's turn on this tick box, which will
So we will open this tick box. Oh shit. Shit. I have a battery. Yeah.
so first I'll delete all of this, right? So I'll delete this. Now the moment I click flag, right, I get 12 answers inside my list. Notice this is absolutely, maybe, perhaps, and so on and so forth, right? So effectively I have created the list of answers that the wizard is going to use, right? Now it is important to notice that if I keep doing, let's say, keep clicking on the flag, every time the length of the list is
Let's do something fun.
increasing, right? And that's happening because sprite or the wizard is basically adding these elements again and again, right? So to avoid that, what I would do is to use this block called delete all of the wizard answers. So I say
Oh yeah, guys, is this like I do? Yeah, yeah. Even. It's not even half page. It's just stay there.
delete all of wizard answers and then prepare the list. So what that does is, I have every time I click the flag, I get exactly this list into my wizard answers. Right now, it turns out that for this particular game, we could have used a method called import, right? But in general, during a code, if you want to change a list, add is the feature, add is the block we use, and hence we used add. It's more useful, in my opinion, right? All right, so now that we have created the wizard's list of answers, right, let's just use the broadcast to say that, look, the list is ready and some other things can happen, right? So let's say I'll say, uh, you know, let's say I'll go to events and say broadcast, right? Let's say this broadcast could be answers ready, right? So again, it doesn't matter what the
แม่เขาอยากได้ตัวเนี้ยเขาขอตัวนี้ได้ไหมแม่ขอกีตาร์ตัวนี้ได้ไหมโอ้okay. So we will make another broadcast. Is ready and so.
Name of this broadcast is, so it said prepare answers. Prepare answer was received here. It did all this, and then finally it says answers are now ready, right? So which means other things can go on. When I receive answers ready, right? When I receive answers ready, perhaps I can say hello for say 2 seconds, right? And then I can say, maybe I can duplicate this and say welcome to my magic room. So welcome to my magic room, say for also for 2 seconds, right? And now I'm going to say, I'm going to use, this again along with the join apple banana block, right? I'm going to use two instances of this, in fact.
So this broadcast when we use this ready answer. Oh. Okay. Say hello. We use join apple or banana.
In fact, so join apple banana, and inside this again I put join apple banana because
And we will put join apple and banana again.
I'm going to have the wizard tell me how many possible answers it can give me, right? So I'll say my crystal ball can give me, let's say, uh,
My crystal ball
up to so I know how do I know how many answers it can give me?
give me. Yep.
It is basically the number of items inside this list called wizard answers, right? So if I've got, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4, say 12 items, I don't need to count, myself. I can use a feature of Scratch to do so for me, right? So I will say go to variables, go to list, right? There is an item called length of wizard answers, right? So notice what will happen here.
We use
when I receive answers ready, I'm going to say, let's say, answers, right? So
videos and so wait, what?
when I do this, right? So what happens is,
So let's try. Oh,
uh, when I receive answer ready, it says hello for 2 seconds. It says welcome to my magic room for 2 seconds again, and then it says my crystal ball can give me up to length of wizard answers for 2 seconds. Let's see how this works out, right? So when I do this, it says hello, right? Welcome to my magic room. My crystal ball can give you up to 12 answers, right? So I think I have to add a little bit of space here just to get it perfectly correct, right? Now with this done, so we have populated a list first by using the add block, and we have also used the length of wizard answers block to tell me how many elements there were in questions. Please start asking questions, right? So I'll say call it ask, right? So
so we will make another podcast if if
I say ask this question. And now we are going to say, let's see what the user wants to ask, right? Remember, wizard is going to answer from this list, but the user must ask a question, right? So again, since I've used a broadcast here, I say when I receive ask, right? When I receive ask, I will go to the sensing block and say ask what's your name and weight. Instead of that, I can say ask me a yes or no
we will use as and let it say as help me yes
question, right? So
yep.
here basically I'm saying ask me a question whose answer is either yes or no, right? Now this ask block, remember, pops out a dialog in which we have to answer something, and whatever we answer gets written into this variable, this internal variable called answer, right? So we will see that, yeah. However, remember we also had a crystal ball, so let's use this opportunity to create some kind of effects on the crystal ball, right? So it's simple. We have already created two costumes for the crystal ball. We will now use them, right? So what I can do is that I can at this point go and say broadcast, say crystal ball, right? I just call it, you know,
So we make another podcast. Turn ball.
crystal ball. Sorry, say crystal ball. So I'll say broadcast crystal ball and wait. Right now,
You need this one. Yep. And wait, not this, but this.
this broadcast and wait is quite similar to broadcast, except that it will broadcast and then it will wait for whatever action has to happen in when I receive this particular message, right? So I'll go to the to the let's say the crystal ball reflect and costume that is king now costume one, right?
So we move to Christanba. When I receive Christanba, repeat 6 times. Wait 0.3 seconds and next costume. Switch to costume 1. When click, switch to costume. When click, switch to costume 1.
Because costume one is the sort of default costume, right? All right, so now let's see what this does. Remember,
So let's see what's gonna happen. Yep, nothing happened.
I'm asking the sprite to ask me a question, give me a dialogue that ask me a yes or no question, right? And once I do that, right, it's going to basically, it's waiting there, right? The moment I click enter, we'll see what happens. This broadcast comes into play, right? And so it says hello, it says welcome to my magic room, and my crystal ball can give up to 12 answers. So it says ask me a yes or no question, and it, because of this ask block, it pops out this dialog box for me. Let's say I ask, is today a lucky day? Right now, with this question asked, right, I expect the broadcast statement to come into play, and we see what happens, right? You see that the crystal ball starts to
So, think so to make another 7 minutes like this and like this. Let's take a look.
blink, right? Why does it blink? Because after this question is completed, when I click the enter there, I broadcast a message called crystal ball. That crystal ball causes all this, and since it's a broadcast and wait, in fact my execution will wait at this point till that crystal ball message code gets over, right? Now let's say I want the sprite to answer back an answer. Right now, remember, I wanted it to pick up any answer at random, right? So let's see how we can do that. Yeah, again using lists. So I'll go to the lists block, right? And I'll say, once this broadcast and wait is done, I'll say in the looks block, say, you know um,
And then when it's finished, this the wizard will say.
basically I want it to give me an answer from there. So let's say I said, right, item number, right? Let's say I used item one.
Anyway, go to whatever. Item 1. Let's take a look.
of wizard answers for, let's say, 2 seconds, right? So what this will do is that it will pick up the first item from this list and answer me, right? Let's just see this, right? So if I said hello, uh, welcome to my magic room, up to 12 answers, standard stuff, right? Ask me a single question. So I say, let's say, am I a good person, right? And when I ask this question, crystal ball will blink because of the broadcast, and it says absolutely. That's because the command I have used here is item one of wizard answers. Now see this very carefully.
So together with right, we have to take a 1, 2, 2, 3. Let's take a look.
Carefully, this is item one, which means that this particular command is going to give me the value of what is stored inside the first item of this list, wizard answers, right? And which in this case is absolutely, right? So we will have a slightly different command which we'll use a little bit later. Hence, pay attention to this very closely, right? Now, in my game, I do not want always answer one to be given. In fact, I want any answer to be given to me, right? So what I could do is I could go back and use my random number generator, right, which is this, and I can tell him that, look, give me an answer which is randomly chosen from the entire list, which means that I can say pick random between, you know, 1 and, remember we use the length of the wizard answer, so I can again use this command and say pick a random number between 1 and length of wizard answers. Pick that. So
We try that one. It's so terrible that we use this thing. Yes. Let's try to take a look. Okay.
So when I say item so and so, it's like it is going to pick a random number, go to the list, whatever these values are from that list, it's going to show me, right? So with this, what will happen is that the sprite will answer me randomly, right? So if I did this, let's say, right, if I say, it says hello, I mean, the regular stuff happens, welcome to my magic room, this thing asks me a yes or no question, will it rain today, right? If I ask this question, the crystal ball blinks and it says absolutely. It just happened to be that it picked up the random number one, right? As we will see later on, we will have the response uh, coming again and again, right? By different response, because it's basically picking up a random number, right? Now I want this process to continue forever until something happens, right? So what I can do here is to again use a broadcast, right? So I'll use broadcast, let's say ask again, right? So if I did this, right, let's say I did this code, basically it's going to ask me forever, right? So whenever it finishes on broadcast, it will again broadcast ask and it will ask me again, right? So I can ask many questions. The crystal ball will keep changing the answer depending on the random number, right? Let's just briefly see this. So if I did this, so again, this is the beginning part is common all the time, right? So it says, ask me a yes or no question. I ask, is it a good day, right? So if I say if it's a good day,
Today we will put it podcast. Hold on. Ooh, yeah. Ah. Dude. Ah, come on. Oh, did. Wait, what? What? Oh, oh,
right, the crystal ball blinks, right? It says no, right? Now again it asks me a question. That's because of this particular broadcast. It happened again. It asked me a question once again, right? So I say, am I a good person, right? I want to be, hopefully it'll say yes. Let's see, right? If I do that, right? That's a silly question. Oops. So yeah, maybe will I be lucky tomorrow? Will I be lucky tomorrow? Right? Let's see what it answers. So it does something, goes and picks up that list, and he says, why do you want to know, right? What I want you to notice is that it's picking up a different answer all the time, and that's simply because we have used item pick a random number between 1 to length of wizard answers, right? So it's picking up a random number and going and picking that value from the from the list and telling us, right? Now let's say we want to, this game will looks like will keep on happening forever. We do not want that. So let's say we want to, stop this game once we ask a question that we have already. Make a list, right? And I'll call it your your questions, right? So this is just a name I give. So this list,
So we will make another list. Your question.
has now been created. It's actually empty, but as the program goes, we'll fill it up, right? Hence, it's a good practice to also duplicate this and delete all of your questions when the program starts. So
we come back, duplicate. Dude, no.
that only means that it will keep the containers but make them all empty, right? So it will nothing will be there. The list will be there, but there'll be everything else will be empty from there, right? So delete all of your questions. Now remember, whenever I the sprite asks me to ask a question, whatever I ask is basically getting stored in this thing called answer, right? So what I can do here is that every time I get a question, right, which Crystal Ball has answered for me, I can go and add this to the questions that I've asked, right? Remember here, my answer will be the
Your question.
question. Why is that? Because really,
Your question.
I am asking the questions and the sprite is answering. Although the nomenclature is a little reversed, but answer here represents the questions that I've asked. So I can keep asking, keep track of what questions I'm asking in this list called your questions. And let's just display it here and see it in action. So when I do this, it says hello, all the regular stuff happens, magic room. It'll ask me to ask a question. Let's say I'll say let's say, do you like me, right? If I ask him this question, ask her actually, right? It says you may be right, probably likes me has now been entered.
Oh. Oh my god. I am a cringe.
entered into the list called your questions. Let's say I ask one more question. Uh, do you really like me? Really like me, let's say, right? I mean, these questions are whatever you want to ask. It asks me a question. I don't think you want to know. So probably it doesn't really like me after all, right? So the point, so maybe we can stop the game, right? So how do we do that, right? I'm going to move this aside a little bit and use a if then else statement.
Ha 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 ha. Use this.
Right? So I'm going to say, inside list, I have got a function called the list contains something, right? So here, notice I'm going to
Hmm.
ask, is the list your questions? Does it contain the answer or not, right? Why am I using answer? Because really, remember, whatever I reply from the text box gets stored in a variable called answer. So I am checking this list, your questions, and I'm saying, does it contain or not, right? Now, this is a function which will return me a value of 1 if it contains. If it does not contain, it will return me a value of 0, right? So hence I can use it in an if else statement. So if the question is contained, then I can say maybe the sprite doesn't like it because I already asked this question. Say you made me angry. You say made me angry by asking again. It's very impatient.
Use this.
It doesn't like to be asked a question again. And then I can say perhaps, so again, no, I don't need this. So I am again going to use join apple banana right here to
This. Apple banana.
say something very special, right?
Apple banana.
I can look through the list and even tell you which question was the question that you asked me, right? Now, for example, let's say I ask it again, do you like me? That was my question number 1. If I ask again, do you really like me? That was question number 2, right? So I want this number to be told now, right? So I'll say, this was your question number. Let's say I'll leave a little bit of a gap. And here I use a command that's available to me called item number of a thing. Now notice very carefully. This is, what we had used previously was, actually we have here, was item of wizard answers. Here I am using item number of, in this case, answer, not in wizard answers, but in fact in your questions, right? So I am going to tell what number this particular thing exists in, right? So I know this thing exists in because that's already confirmed from this, this if statement. Now I want to know what number it's on. So please make a very clear distinction between item number of this answer and that particular item. So item number refers to this 1234. The item itself refers to this orange value. Here, right? So basically I can say this is angry, and then now that it's become a little bit angry, I can say, maybe the game is going to get over. So I will broadcast a message again called, let's say, let's call it a new message